What's up, guys? We are back with another Turtles review, but this is not a regular Turtle review. This isn't a standard figure by any means whatsoever. We're taking a look at the HeatBoys Mecha Leonardo. And this is not just the regular Leonardo, this is their limited edition variant that's like a stealth night variant that comes in a darker gray black color scheme that's not just a green turtle. I've been a big fan of these figures since they first came out. I've not done any videos on them until now. The folks over at Bombusbee asked me to take a look at this guy, and I jumped at the chance, honestly, because I've been really looking forward to this figure just based on how cool the other ones are. It's basically a Ninja Turtle Gundam, for lack of a better way to describe it, and that encompasses a huge part of what I truly care about. So I'm pretty excited about this guy to see what makes him unique from the regular one. Now, it comes in a pretty standard box for this line. There's nothing too fancy about the box itself compared to the others. They all kind of come in premium boxes. So you've got like a big spot varnish look of Leo there on the front, this big spread showcasing the figure. There's some chrome labeling on the spines, on the top, the whole 9 yards. And then the back of the box gives you a huge spread of all the stuff this thing comes with. All sorts of product shots showcasing how it moves, how it works, and then just a loadout shot of all of the accessories. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our HeatBoys Leonardo. This is again the limited edition variant. There's a couple different variants for some of the other figures out there as well. I do have all but Donatello of the regular figures of the standard green turtles. This is the same Leonardo, but he's in a very different color scheme, obviously, and he's got some accessory changes as well. I'm a little not sure which one I prefer at this point. I almost kind of think I prefer this one just because of how different it is, and some of the accessories it includes are just a really cool change from that first figure. So, let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. This guy is probably a little bit surprising in terms of what it's capable of doing. There's a whole lot that goes on with this figure, from how you attach things, to all the accessories it comes with, to the fact that it's built with an intense amount of die cast. There's just a lot going on here. So we've got a head that can look up like super far. So he has a neck that comes up out of the shell, just like an actual turtle. And then you can look down pretty decently as well. You've got tilt side to side, you've got rotation. Arms go out at the shoulders. If you move this piece around, so the shoulder armor, move it around, you've also got a butterfly joint in there. I will say that putting this back in can be a little cumbersome at times. There we go. They, of course, will swivel all the way around. We've got a bicep swivel. We've got double jointed elbows, and they get you slightly better than 90. You've got hinges and rotation at the wrist, and then you've got finger articulation, which typically I'm not the biggest fan of. However, what they did here to make the weapons actually stay in place kind of alleviates any of the real concerns I would normally have. So there's a little slot on the inside of the hand, kind of right there. It's kind of hard to pick up, but it will allow you to actually peg weapons and stuff onto the hand so that he's not exactly holding them with tension. They're actually being supported by the hand, which I think is a nice touch. There is some articulation back here in the shell, like you can pop stuff out like engine parts and things like that. It doesn't do a whole lot, and the shell is actually a separate piece. It's not part of the figure. You've got a waist twist down here. You've got some tilt side to side, and then you've got, honestly, a surprising amount of hinge forward. Like, it's not the best by any means, but for something this big and bulky, it actually does work pretty well. I'm happy with that range for something of this size. Legs go out all the way. They kick forward pretty much all the way. They do kick backwards. You've got a thigh twist up there. We've got double jointed knees that go back pretty far. It's not too crazy looking, pretty far. And then you've got things like, moving kneecaps and things like that. And then you've got hinges and rocker. And some of this stuff is pretty tight because, again, of the die cast. There's rotation, there's rocker, and there's hinge down at those ankles. He does move pretty much like any other normal figure. The only real difference is that, well, he's really big, and he is made of both metal and plastic. So, if you're familiar with things like, say, Bandai metal builds, or I don't know, Metal Robot Spirit, stuff like that, this is obviously a bigger type of figure than some of that stuff, but it's very similar in that regard. Some of the joints feel pretty tight, but it's just because of the materials being used. They do hold their poses very, very well. He has some surprising range, and in many ways, it just kind of feels like a normal figure. It just happens to be, I don't know, like 3 or 4 inches taller than most of the stuff I deal with. Now, of course, when it comes to something like this, my main focus is and was always going to be the visuals, the aesthetics. What does this thing do that is well, it's different from anything else because, let's be honest, we are in a crazy age for turtles where every single company that wants it can get it now. And everybody is making turtles. And this is a very different take on a Ninja Turtle figure. I know we've had things in the past like transforming turtles from Playmates that, transform into cars and stuff like that. We've had Transformer turtles from Hasbro. There's all sorts of crazy turtle figures out there right now. This thing still kind of stands a little bit apart, not to mention the fact that this is a different color and different take and different idea on Leonardo versus him just being a Ninja Turtle. So this is like, a more stealthy kind of variant, more in line with an actual mecha versus being a Ninja Turtle that is a mecha. I really, and I can't stress this enough, I really love these figures. I'm a big fan of the 3 that I've already gotten of the regular style. I'm really looking forward to getting Donatello. I'm probably going to get the gold ones too. This thing is a little bit different for me because it very much gives me just, Gundam vibes. And that's the generic thing to say, but I'm also a big Gundam fan. So that's the first kind of thing that I go to, is that this is Gundam and turtles. It's not, but that's what it sort of looks like. And I think this works really, really well. The mixed media approach with the insane amount of die cast not only gives this thing a tremendous shelf presence, it also gives it a whole hell of a lot of weight, which does help in posing and stability and just keeping him planted on your shelf. But the paint on this thing is absolutely insane. Everything has some sort of either, painted piece, or it has something on it. Like all of these, like little decals is the only thing I can really say to describe them. It's probably tampo work, but you've got, these little characters. You've got TMNT-01 across for like Leo's number. You've got all sorts of little like, mecha style markings that you would see on a Gunpla kit or on like an Ava unit, something like that. But I really like some of the color choices here for this kind of color on the arms and the legs. It looks black, but it's also got this sort of like deep plum look to it. So a very, very deep purple almost. Super, super navy blue is probably the way to describe it. You've got a couple varying levels of grays. We've got some gold, brassy kind of accents on him. And in general, just the combination of this style of color scheme with this bright, bright blue, I think is working really, really well. I'll do some size comparisons here in a minute so you can see exactly how big this thing is. It's not enormous by any means, but it's bigger than your average figure by a wide margin. And I just really like all of the angular designs. There's a lot of stuff in here that very much evokes the idea of a turtle. Like even these shoulder pieces, these armor pieces kind of give off the idea of a shell. The carapace on the torso there, it looks like the underbelly of a turtle. And then, of course, you do still have an actual shell, which is very angled, very sleek, because this looks like some sort of like the power plant for him, or also the exhaust and maybe an engine of some kind, like I mentioned, where this piece will pop out and kind of cantilever down. So that's kind of neat. I really like that. You've got exhaust ports up under here that are highlighted in gold, things like that. But all of this stuff is just really, really shiny and bright and vibrant. But some of it is also very, very matte, especially the stuff on the torso. And I like that sort of, the difference in finish in some ways to make things pop and stand out apart from each other. But once you see this thing in person, in hand, it's a pretty amazing looking figure. There's really not anything I can say to criticize this, which sounds kind of ridiculous, but I just like the way this looks. It very much turns a turtle design into a mecha in a somewhat believable way, I suppose, that still retains a lot of the ideas of Leonardo, the color scheme, the overall shape, the ideas of having some sort of turtley elements all over it, so it doesn't just look like some sort of random nameless mecha that happens to have a turtle head on it. Because the head, of course, is still very, very Ninja Turtle. You've even got so much as to have like the bandana going in the back there, where it's these pylons sticking out the back of the head. He's got a pretty smug expression on him. He does have a movable jaw as well, if you want to give him a little bit more expression. So you can open his mouth a little bit. I don't know if you really care about that as far as articulation goes, but it does change up the portrait a little bit. And then one of the cool things that works across, I believe, all of these figures still so far, is that this guy does feature light up eyes. So you can hit him with the little pizza piece and you will have a light up eye. So this thing incorporates one of those, I've seen this a lot with a bunch of figures lately, especially a lot of like third party or Chinese companies, is utilizing a little magnet piece to activate the lights. It does not come with batteries, unfortunately, so you'll have to get those, but it does work really well to turn this thing on, and then you've got him fully lit up in the eyes, and it just adds another little bit of depth to the figure and kind of highlights the area around the mask a little bit nicer. So, I mean, top to bottom, head to toe, the whole deal, I think it's a really cool looking figure. It's very different. You know, if you're not into mecha stuff, this probably isn't something you really care about. But if you like Turtles and you like Gundam, if you like mecha stuff, I mean, this is it. This is a great combination and mashup of those two worlds when it comes to toys. Now for some comparisons, we've got, well, to start with the one I mentioned. So this is the original one next to our new Stealth Knight version here. They are, again, the same figure. So there's not really any difference in terms of build or anything here. There are differences in terms of accessories. Some stuff is added, some stuff is removed, but the figure in general is the same. The difference here is a complete and very different kind of palette swap. Now, as far as maybe some scaling differences and things with other lines, let's kind of pull some other stuff in, just to give you an idea of exactly how big this guy is. So let's put him in the middle there, and we'll pull some other stuff in. So to start with, let's do a non-mecha thing. Here's a Super 7 turtle, so there's Ultimate's Leonardo next to him, just for that kind of comparison. And let's do Marvel Legends. I mean, obviously these things don't scale really at all. There's Maximum Spider-Man, but just to give you an idea of exactly how big they are, it's a pretty big figure. You know, they're about 9-10 inches tall, roughly, depending on how you got them posed. There's a lot of size, there's a lot of heft here. Let's go with some more mecha style stuff. I know that's not exactly a lot of stuff I typically show these days anymore, but let's move Leo aside, and just to give folks who are maybe more into the mecha aspect of it than the turtle aspect of it, here is a Metal Robot Spirit. So that's the Bandai Gundam Wing Epion from a couple years ago. Let's pull Spider-Man aside, and let's do one more that kind of, I guess this probably more accurately describes it. So here is a metal build from Bandai. This thing's really new. It's just as new as Leo, I believe. There's our metal build Zeta Gundam. Still a little bit bigger than the Gundam, but this gives a pretty good idea of exactly how big this thing is. And I'm going to throw Leo back in here, you know, for scale comparisons across all of them, so you get an idea of exactly what we're talking about here. There is a lot of figure here. It's a high price point kind of figure, but you're getting a lot of figure for it. Not to mention the fact, again, that on top of that, this thing is overwhelmingly built with a lot of metal. So it's going to scale really well with some of your larger mecha stuff, if you're into that kind of thing. And then beyond that, I mean, it's still going to be like this really big, like robot kind of turtle that could feasibly go along with just about anything else if you suspend disbelief long enough. Now, as far as accessories goes, this line is overwhelmingly, with every figure, they are loaded with tons of stuff. A lot of it is obviously very themed to the character. It's Leonardo, so obviously we're talking about swords here, right? Like, we can't get away from that. But it's not just going to be a single set of katanas. It's going to be multiple swords of different styles. There's going to be other stuff that plays up the mecha aspect of it, and then stuff that is just a little bit different because it's a giant robot. It might as well have other things. So to start with, we do get an extra top of the head. So you can pop the head off, the top of the head anyway, and you get this. So this little doodad is where the light and the batteries go for the standard head. You pop that off, and then you've got this hat. So it's like a wandering samurai kind of look. So he's got that, you know, big flat brimmed hat. It's got like a scope on the top. And it also includes another set of lights and, of course, a battery compartment. So you utilize the pizza thing again, and you can turn it on and off. It's still just the eyes, you know, and you can turn them off and on. You got to hit it just right. Yeah, and it'll flash, and it'll turn them off and on. And you can, you know, do whatever you want to do with them, have them on, have them off, and then they can also kind of do that breathing motion as well. But you've also got a piece of pizza if you want to use that as its own accessory. You've got that. And we've also got this wired scarf, which I really like. It's just a wired piece of fabric, but I think it really changes up the idea of this one. Again, it plays up the wandering samurai kind of aspect here. And it looks really good. It's a pretty robust piece of fabric, too. It's pretty thick. It's got some nice texture to it, and the wire is very, very good. It holds in any position I've tried with it thus far. So that's pretty neat. I like that idea really well. And then he includes all of like the normal like accessory stuff. So one thing I'm going to mention is that a lot of these things that he has can be connected to the figure in various ways. They all sort of utilize different pieces and parts to make it work. So what I would suggest is to really look through the instructions on which things they say go with which, because it's really difficult to explain it all in a video. It is overwhelming, the amount of little pieces, and it can be a little cumbersome at times to figure out how you want to do it, which pieces are going to be used, which ones aren't. but there's a lot of modularity with this in terms of the options that you're given. So, you know, things like these little swords. So it's Leonardo, you get a few little swords. And this is, again, what I was talking about earlier. They've got this little hole here. That's what the peg in the hand is for. So you can put that on the hand and it holds it in place in addition to tension from the fingers. These are also die cast, so they're not just plastic. There's a lot of heft here, and it continues the color scheme of that darker metal, the silver, some blue, and then gold. You've got this guy here, this big monster sword. So it's a big curved katana. Really like the design on this one. And it's got 3 slots, so you can have different styles of grip. It's got its own unique scabbard that connects in its own unique way on the back. So again, you know, you'll want to check the instructions. And it locks in place too. Like once it's in there, it's not just going to fall out either. The same goes for these. You get 2 of these swords. These are like your standard Leo katanas, but they're done up in a very tactical kind of way. Very mecha looking. They also, again, they all feature that hole in the hand or in the handle, and these lock in place also. We've got kind of an oddball accessory. So we've got a crossbow, like a tactical crossbow here. It does include a locking arrow, so like this will go in and actually stay in place once you put it there. It's got moving parts. So the pump down here will move. And these, I don't know like what these are called. I don't know anything about crossbows, but these will all fold in, you know, it'll lock into place and you can stow it and store it. And there's just an insane amount of sculpt on this thing. Lots of paint, lots of tampo work, lots of decals, all sorts of stuff. There's just a ton of detail on this thing. Something that, you know, I wouldn't really associate with Leonardo, but it's pretty cool. You get 2 of these arrows as well. You get 4 silver shurikens. We get these robot arms, and these are kind of reminiscent to the Raphael figure that they did. He comes with 2 monster arms, but these are smaller. These, again, these attach in their own specific way on the back, and you can kind of have them reaching over top of Leo to give him another set of arms. They can hold swords as well because they've also got the little pegs, so you can kind of get weird and crazy with it if you want. The star of the show, though, is undoubtedly this. So this is very reminiscent of like Cloud's sword from Final Fantasy, the Buster Sword, or Guts' sword from Berserk, but it's a monster Buster style sword. It's again got the holes, it continues that color scheme, and it's just huge, and it's got an insane shelf presence. I really like the deep red accents on this one. It's slightly different from some of the other stuff, but I mean, this is just wild. I love this thing. Really cool. Very menacing looking sword. He does include a shield, so the regular Leo also includes the shield, and it kind of works the same way. You've got a handle on the inside, so you can put it on his wrist, but it's not just a shield, so it's modular, and it will come apart. These pieces on the sides will work as shoulder armor, so you can put them down, and they act more like, you know, turtle shell kind of armor, or you can put them on his waist. So these golden pegs here on these sides, you can use those, and both pieces will become either like skirt armor or shoulder armor, and they lock back into place really, really well. All of this stuff just works super, super seamlessly and very easily. There's really no mucking around with anything, except for all the little connector doodads that you'll have to mess around with, but that's just as simple as reading the instructions. All of this stuff is very seamlessly integrated into this figure. We also get something that we've seen with some of the other figures. So if you're familiar with this line, you may have some of this stuff already, but the figures do include a way to build like a mini turtle fan. So Leo has the wheels. He's also got a translucent green Leo, and then you've got a turtle that sits sitting down. And there is something that I haven't shown. The shell actually opens up in a different spot, and that's where the cockpit is. So you can put this little turtle in his shell, seated, and kind of spin him around, and you've got him inside ready to pilot this mech. And that's, I guess, you know, obviously to give you an idea of what the scale is supposed to be. This thing should be massive. That's the entirety of like the actual accessories, not including the little connector pieces. And then you've also got this big monster stand. So he does include this. There's an arm for it and everything. But what I really like and why I really wanted to show it is that it has storage in it. So you can put all those little bits and bobs and doodads, some of these other pieces in here, like those short swords, the robot arms, they'll go in there, things like that. I'm a big fan of having storage for a figure included with the figures, just so I don't have to bag stuff up or, you know, keep stuff. So it's really nice to have this, and it's also a pretty robust base as well. So this guy is loaded. Like, there's a way to change up his appearance. There's 100 different swords, not literally, obviously, a really cool shield, that crossbow, the robot arms, all sorts of stuff to make your Mecha Leo essentially whatever type of Leo you want him to be. So yeah, overall, this thing is wild. Like, there's really no way to describe it differently. This figure, this line, if you're into these style of properties, again, if you like mecha stuff and you like turtles, this is a pretty good crossroads of where those two things meet in a very, very good toy line. Granted, it's an expensive toy line. There's a lot to this. They are kind of cumbersome when it comes to the accessories and putting everything on it. You know, I've said recently I get kind of overwhelmed lately when there's like a ton of stuff in the package. That does sort of happen for me with this guy as well. But you have so many freaking options. There's so many different swords. That Mega Buster sword is just wild. He's got the crossbow thing, and there's all sorts of different ways to attach pieces, you know, break the shield apart and make bigger shell pieces on them. They thought of a lot of different things to make this figure just what it is and make this line work the way it does. Not to mention some of the more unique stuff on this figure in particular, like the hat or the scarf. Something as stupid as a scarf makes this figure infinitely cooler. You get like +5 to cool factor just by having that scarf on. So there's a lot of cool stuff here. Even if you have the regular one, I don't think this is one you'd want to miss. So that's going to do it for this look at the HeatBoys limited edition Leonardo. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.